So with a major and very popular holiday coming up, I, as a video reviewer, am somewhat pressured to release something in the theme of said holiday. But as usual, I tend to buck that trend because I really don't like pandering because it's a certain day of the year. That said, this is probably as close as I'm going to get as I review this creepy spider bug lady that is animated BlackArachnia. Sorry, I just don't roll with the holiday special thing. Hey, I'm the guy who did an Arbor Day special. I am not inclined to do one for Halloween. Not that I have a good idea for it anyway. So, let's take a look. We're back in the Transformer animated realm, which means we're getting a very efficiently designed toy with a very cartoonish look. And that is very well represented here in BlackArachnia. She is a mutant spider, which means the shape is there for the most part. She does have 8 legs. She's got some nasty looking little mandibles in the front, multiple eyes, and a big old butt. But everything else is very much alien. She's very spiky, which, typically spiders are not. And her proportions are a little bit strange. The head is much larger than you would expect it to be. The abdomen is a little bit higher and, I don't know, maybe not as big as you would expect on a Black Widow spider. I know. So you do have a few artistic liberties taken for the sake of making her a little bit more interesting in design. She is supposed to be an alien spider according to the cartoon anyway, so who am I to say she's accurate to a Black Widow? She looks creepy, that's all I ask, and that is what I am given. There is some Black Widow touches to her though, of course, since this is based on the original BlackArachnia, for instance. You do see the hourglass there on top of the abdomen, which there are always 2 problems anytime an hourglass is put on a toy for a spider. Number 1, the hourglass is usually enormous. And here, it's actually a little bit closer to real life because the hourglass on a real-life Black Widow is really not all that big. So this is still kind of tiny in comparison, but it still works. On the other hand, what they always get wrong is it's on the underside of the abdomen, not on top, but you can't see it if they painted it on the underside of the abdomen, especially on a Transformer where there is no underside of the abdomen. So they put it on top, just so you get it across. Okay, so I can forgive that. So, just getting the biological inaccuracies out of the way. We do have some detail that is definitely not on a Black Widow spider. For instance, a lot more purple, as well as a lot of gold painted accents, which look really nice on this toy. It's a little bit of an odd color scheme, but it works. It's mostly BlackArachnia. Black and gold and a little bit of red here and there. But the purple brings in a little bit of her Transmetal 2 style, and we'll get a little bit more of that in the robot mode. It's a nice little blend of everything BlackArachnia was. I like that. Now, the toy, because it is a beast former that uses its natural arms and legs as beast arms and legs, is going to come up with a few little oddities, like visible hands, for instance. But they do a good job of disguising the actual robot mode legs, which are in the form of these huge rear legs. So they do a good job of hiding them engineering-wise. Also, you can also take advantage of the articulation in all of this and splay the spider out. If you want to have like a more wide spider than tall, and actually like flatten it out and give it a creepier look, it's entirely up to you. I choose to keep it underneath. I choose to keep the legs underneath for a couple reasons. Number 1, the molding kind of seems to imply that goes together that way. So as well as the paint apps, because the purple does kind of blend in from the underside to the top. I kind of like that look. But also because this is like really kind of loose, so there's not a whole lot I can do. So we make the best of it. Hey, I'm just happy all the joints are tight enough for her to actually stand on her spider mode legs. As we know in Beast Wars, that was a huge problem. Here, they're very secure, and she stands quite well, quite tall actually, on her legs just fine. For a little bit of function and gimmick, we do have this giant claw sticking out of her butt. That's definitely biologically inaccurate. However, if we yank, we get a loud clacking sound, as the claw extends forward. I will say the claw is translucent plastic, but it's held up pretty well over the years. I think it's just because it's that thick and the hinge that it's on really isn't all that tight. That said, the claw is hooked, so you can actually grip it onto things and let her hang on her spider web. This is where I really wish that hinge in her abdomen was a little bit tighter on mine, so I could hang her down like that, but we go with what we have. So she has this big distended broken open butt. That's too bad. So I'm gonna set that aside and actually show you with a press of a button all the way back. Kind of neat. We're gonna set that aside. You can transform this toy without removing it. However, I'm gonna go ahead and do that anyway, just for the sake of smoothing things out. So let's get this girl transformed. I'm going to start with the legs here in the back by rotating these forward and straightening them up a little bit to create the robot mode legs. I like how these come together. It's again, it's animated, so it's an incredibly intuitive design to get the beast mode legs into the robot mode legs. It does leave some weird shapes once we get it fully standing her up, but I think it works out for the best. Alright, so as you see, the abdomen opens up. This allows the head to come through. The head does not have a whole lot of clearance to get through, which is kind of unfortunate. You kind of have to raise it up here, and there's a couple tabs it has to dodge in order to get all the way out. So bring that around, straighten up the legs to bring them down. These pieces, which I'm going to angle out this way, so that the little gap, the little groove cuts for the ball sockets face outward. These I'm going to rotate backward and hinge them back so they clear her arms. You can't see because the shadows are in the way. I'm going to hinge up her abdomen to bring it up to her actual butt. Lower the arms down at the shoulder. We're going to rotate these around. Just like so. And simple as that, we have our robot mode BlackArachnia. If I can get everything straightened out and stable. There we go. Now you get a full look at the beautiful girl that she is. I really, really like this design. There's something extremely cool to her silhouette with all the gold spider legs sticking up straight up. Man, it looks really cool. Like, it gives her a really wicked, evil look, and definitely sets her apart from your standard BlackArachnia, who, you know, honestly, we know the spider legs just kind of stuck out the side of her arms, and that's not the best of looks. This really works for me. Now we'll take a close-up of the head, which you can see does take a lot of cues from the original BlackArachnia toy. However, there are a few unique little elements. You get a little bit more purple mixed in, as well as a little bit more red, because not only do you have the hourglass painted on her forehead, you also have 4 eyes going, just to get the spider thing across a little bit stronger, which is really cool. It's light piped in red, with the entire back of her head being translucent, which means light piping those 4 eyes is remarkably easy, and you can see the color here even with no real light shining behind her. I will say the head is on a ball joint and a clear ball joint socket, which always makes me worry, but it seems to be really thick plastic and not all that tight again, so it's surviving time quite well. It's always been an interesting design. I just got asked on Twitter before I reviewed this, why is it shaped like this? And that's because the original mutant head, that was a slot for the mutant head to rotate down. So she kind of has this weird little, like, mouth exposed on, underneath a helmet thing going on, which I don't really mind. Also, while we're here, gold Decepticon emblem, which is kind of unique, tampographed right there on her throat, which is something the original BlackArachnia had as far as having a Predacon symbol there. I really like the look of the toy. I think the spider head with the eyes makes an incredibly nice looking jest. Shut up. That's not how I meant it. You can also see the hourglass again right here on her waistline. well, just a little bit more red, just to kind of throw it in there a little bit more. A lot more purple in this mode, too. Or at least, at the very least, a lot of the purples come together to create a much more solid appearance. It works really well countering the black. Of course, black and purple, these are iconic Decepticon colors. And the gold makes her stand out from what you would typically think, your Skywarps and whatnot. So it gives her her own personality and appearance. That's always appreciated. Now, balance-wise, she does kind of get a little bit weird because her feet are pretty small, and she almost has this weird high heel thing going on because that's what her heel spur looks like. Now, the trick to it, animated, was kind of weird with body shapes, so that's the shape of the leg. So getting her balanced can be a little bit tricky, just because she's not at your typical, she's not standing your typical way, so sometimes it's a little bit hard to get her to do exactly what you want. That said, if you can get her to do what you want, the articulation is quite exceptional. You have a fully ball-jointed head as well as rocking back and forth. I will say, I will point out, go ahead, yeah, hang on. Someone in the comments already thought I forgot that step. Well, I kind of did at first, but hey, I did catch it. So, quiet. And I know someone's already corrected me, even though I've already pointed it out. So, yeah, looking into articulation, yeah, we have a hinge on the lower part of the neck and a ball joint at the top. Ball jointed shoulder, which works extremely well, lots of range of motion. Ball jointed elbow for full rotation and a decent 90-degree bend. No wrist rotation, which means she's stuck with the barbell curling elbows that, many hate, and I'm not a fan of them either. We have a rotation joint at the waist, as well as ball-jointed hips, a little bit restricted with the abdomen piece, but you can fold that out of the way to get a little bit more. Knees, go to the 90-degree. And we do have a tilt on the feet, but it's a loose joint, so there's really not a whole lot you're going to get out of it. So her articulation stands pretty well. She can get into some decent enough poses. I do really need some wrist articulation on her, but for the most part, I think she does fairly well. I certainly don't think she deserved to be the peg warmer she was during the early waves of animated. She, just because, she's the bad girl. So, little boys didn't want to buy the girl toy. I'm really happy we're starting to get beyond that. So if we bring back her claw launcher, I'll go ahead and open it up so it actually looks like a decent weapon. These can mount on the underside of her forearms, which allows her to have this massive web shooter on her wrist. Hang on. Peg in for me. There we go. You just have to coax it a little bit. So it's very Spider-Man that she has to fire it from the underside of her wrist going up top. So, yeah. So that way you do still get the functionality of the gimmick in robot mode, which is a nice thing. I still really like that. That's a neat little gimmick. So beyond that, that's pretty much it for your animated BlackArachnia. She's a very decent deluxe, though she does have some issues, particularly the balance thanks to the small feet and weird leg shape, as well as the lack of wrist articulation that really kind of hampers what you can do with her arms. But that said, she's a really efficient design. I really like the spider mode, and I like the ability to stand in spider mode, which is a nice little bonus. And I love this silhouette of all of these spikes raising up. All these little... Oh, man. And there's so many little hinges there. You can actually do quite a bit with it. You want to point forward if you pretend she's firing something. Little bits of imagination. You can rotate these down for stingers in front. A lot of little play, which makes her a lot of fun in her robot mode, aside from just looking really, really good. I'm really upset that she was a peg warmer back in the day, because she really, really did not deserve it. So, that is BlackArachnia. A fun toy, if a bit flawed, but still really shows what animated was good at.